But hey, guys, did you get laid off from your manufacturing job because the foreign company that hired you for a manufacturing job in a facility is worried about what the impact of tariffs, so they have to move some numbers around? Fear not. You can become a Gestapo officer.
Stocks are sinking sharply right now. The Dow is down. Take a look at this. The Dow is down right now a lot of points, 1.64, 1.65%. The Dow Jones is down 729.
Is this good? I don't really understand numbers and stonks and the economy. Is this good, chat? I mean, it'll rebound again. It's just like he'll just go back to it and be like, no more tariffs, we don't have it, and then everyone will buy, and then sell. I mean, it's there's a market correction. I don't really care about like market movements of this sort. I don't think the stock market is representative of the economy in general, like the health of the economy. I don't think the GDP is an adequate metric to understand the way that people exist. I don't think that it's a good metric. I don't think the stock market is a good metric either. It's a good metric for how much wealthy people are making money. Like wealthy people who have parked all of their net worth into stonks. But yeah, a job report came out and it was insane. A job report came out with that showed some numbers for the month of July, but that wasn't the real interesting part of this. Like there was limited job growth. It was less than expected, but not like too much. But the real scary part of the job report that came out was actually the correction in the past month's job reports, where apparently we did not get 114,000 new jobs. It was more like 14,000 new jobs, which is crazy. I feel like this is, I mean, if your estimate is off by, I don't know, 100,000 or 200,000, then you're not doing much of an estimate at all. You're just kind of making stuff up. It's no different than when Donald Trump says, you don't understand, the nation of Japan has given me $7 quintillion that I can purchase as many labubus as I want with. That's right. They're making America great again. It's like, okay, so we got some IOUs. All right, got it. Where is the money going? Like, the roads are still dog shit. I don't think that is going there. The ISPs still offer horrible service, so I don't think it's going there either. Yeah, the net correction was minus 258,000 jobs than first reported. Now, look, I don't know if this is normal or not. I don't understand. I'm not an expert, right? But people that seemingly are experts here are saying, just in a weak jobs report, the U.S. economy added only 73,000 jobs in July. That's way below expectations. May and June revised down by 258,000. 75% of the July job gains came from healthcare. The unemployment rate ticked back up to 4.2 from 4.1 in June. Wages grew 3.9 in the past year versus 2.7 inflation. Heather Long continues, chief economist for Navy Federal, columnist at the Washington Post. The labor market is in trouble. Healthcare or social assistance are pretty much the only sectors hiring. This is not healthy. Retail plus 16,000, finance plus 15,000, hospitality plus 5,000. I mean, this makes sense. Do we really need more hospitality workers when tourism is taking a major hit? You know, I mean, what to do with hospitality when Donald Trump is basically saying, we're shut off to the rest of the world. If you come here, we will arrest you. You might actually be prosecuted. You might actually spend some time in an immigrant detention facility for an extended period of time for the crime of trying to come into the country and having like a JD Vance meme in your phone or something. Who the is going to want to come here? State government plus 5,000, transport or warehouse plus 4,000, construction plus 2,000, professional business services are down 14,000. Federal government is down 12,000, down 84,000 since January. They almost fired. Wait, they there were almost 100,000 people that lost jobs in federal government. 11,000 in manufacturing, directly tied back to tariffs and the tariffs mania. Because on the one hand, with tariffs, the inconsistency and the instability might be good for Trump's close friends and associates that know that he's not going to pull the trigger on the tariffs or whatever. But obviously, foreign corporations that have manufacturing facilities on U.S. soil do not like that inconsistency. It seems like they will respond by downsizing. This is a predictable outcome, something that people warned about. Not me, again, not an expert, but experts have warned about. Local government down 3,000, information down 2,000. My company just had layoffs announced today. Jesus Christ. But hey, guys, did you get laid off from your manufacturing job because the foreign company that hired you for a manufacturing job in a facility is worried about what the impact of tariffs, so they have to move some numbers around? Fear not. You can become a Gestapo officer. That's great. Can't wait until we have a nation that produces nothing except for pain and violence, both in terms of manufacturing weapons, of course, but also domestic pain, so that everyone can be a Trump-backed loyalist SS guard. Great. Great. I thought you meant like wrestling. No, I mean like literally. It's going to get to a point where the only jobs that are available are ICE agents, like snitch hotline person, concentration camp guard, brown shirt brigade. Great. Love that. Like arresting the remaining people that actually work in construction and things of that nature. Meanwhile, Trump is what? In wake of bad jobs report, Trump wants to fire head of labor statistics department. Trump said on Truth Social that he will remove Erica McAnterfer as the commissioner of labor statistics after the July employment report found that just 73 jobs were added. I don't know if this is because he's mad about like how little new jobs were added and she didn't lie enough, or because she lied in the past, or like the previous estimate was so off base that they think it's like ridiculous. I was just informed that our country's job numbers are being produced by a Biden appointee, Dr. Erica McIntyre, the commissioner of labor statistics, who faked the jobs numbers before the election to try and boost Kamala's chances of victory. This is the same Bureau of Labor Statistics that overstated the jobs growth in March 2024 by approximately 818,000, and then again right before the 2024 presidential election in August and September by 112,000. These were records. No one can be that wrong. We need accurate jobs numbers. I've directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated by political purpose. Wait, but isn't she doing what she did for Biden, but for you, and you're mad that she actually didn't continue doing for you what she did for Biden? Also, the thing that I don't understand about this, the thing that I don't fully understand about this is like, are these jobs numbers just like phony, made up? Someone is just going around and just saying like, no, shit's great? Or is it like, I don't know how these statistics are tabulated. Is it because companies constantly have these like ghost jobs that they never fill, and then the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually responds to that as though these are like real job openings? Like, how do you get something like this so wrong? I don't understand. Also, I mean, this is anecdotal and it's not a great way to make an assessment, but the report from most people that have jobs, and also most people that don't have jobs currently and want to get a job, is that they just keep applying to these millions of different job openings that seemingly are out there, and people don't even like call them back. Like there is something so inconsistent with what's going on. Brutal. If you exclude these two categories, job growth has been running negative for 3 straight months. Basically, the only U.S. sectors in the U.S. economy that are adding jobs are healthcare and social assistance. That's crazy. It's also crazy because like we are a growing nation, right? I mean, we have 330 million people here. So there's like constantly new babies popping up. The population is constantly increasing, and therefore there should be more need. There should be more jobs. There should be more people working to fill those roles. You know, you need new houses, you need new homes, you need new roads, you need new cars. People need to build those things. And that's why there's no lump sum of labor, technically. Now, of course, you can create a second tier of labor to depress the existing wages. And America has done that consistently for decades with undocumented immigration. But even then, especially at a time when undocumented immigration has been curbed dramatically, there shouldn't be this kind of a response, I think. Yeah, this is the other side of the story that David Dane correctly points to, which is that the only source of labor stability right now, the only sector of labor stability right now, healthcare and assistance, social assistance, is getting at least $1 trillion cut, with insurance being cut to 15 million people. So that growth will bleed in the coming months. A worrisome futuristic jobs report. In the newsletter, Joe Weisenthal says, in the newsletter I wrote about today's labor market data and how it was not only bad, but bad in a specific way that could portend a more ominous direction for the economy. Today's non-farm payrolls report was not good. But it's more than that. There was something ominous about it, or like it was a glimpse into a weird future. Let's start with the data. The actual headline numbers weren't really that big of a deal. Headline job gains came in at 73,000 versus expectations of 104,000. Not the end of the world. The unemployment rate ticked up to 4.2%, but that's what the economists were forecasting, so that's fine. However, there are 2 mega asterisks everyone's paying attention to. First was the revisions. According to the BLS, the last 2 months of job gains were overstated by 258,000 jobs. Those solid post-tariff reports, an apparent mirage. Shocking. But then also, look at what sectors are adding jobs. And we already covered that. It's healthcare. 73,000 jobs are added in July, and 73,000 of them can be attributed to 2 low productivity sectors that increase mechanically almost every month as society gets more old and infirm. Everything else is stalling at best. It's actually worse than stalling. As Matt Basler noted, without healthcare, the last 3 months of payroll gains look like this: minus 53,000 and minus 45,000 in June and minus 300 in July. Of course, we know in reality that it isn't just healthcare and social assistance that are growing. There's that whole AI thing going on, which is helping lift the entire stock market to record highs. Yesterday alone, Meta added about $200 billion to its market cap. Everything is so fake, dude. I mean, come on, dude. Everything is propped up by stonks. Literally. That's the only area there where there's like noticeable growth. And it's completely fake. It's completely fake. It's all a speculation for the future that these companies are going to be completely destroying the existing labor pool. Like that is what people are making money off of right now. The speculation that these companies that use artificial intelligence, okay, are going to be able to gut the existing labor pool. This is one of the best reasons why I always point to the stock market not actually being a good metric for a healthy economy. Because I always use the example of a merger, right? In the aftermath of like a mega merger, 2 companies merging with one another, right? Larger company eats smaller company, whatever. There are always layoffs that come in the process. They eliminate redundancies. Their stock price goes up because they've become more efficient, right? They've become more efficient due to horizontal or vertical integration as a consequence of this merger, or they've become more efficient because they've laid off all of these additional employees. So now you have tens of thousands of people that no longer have a job, right? They've been taken out of the labor force. They're clearly not doing better. Tens of thousands of families are now doing worse than they were before. And yet, the stock performance looks great for those who actually are wealthy enough to have been able to purchase stocks in this company are now doing better overall. How can you look at a system like this and still think this is a perfectly healthy way to look at to make an assessment on a perfectly healthy economy. It's not. It clearly isn't. At least stock performance in the past, to a certain degree, was associated with a product that you were manufacturing. You made the best planes, for example, or you found more efficient ways of building a plane. You had new technology, and then your stock went up. Now it's stock buybacks and market manipulation that plays a major role in people's stock performance. Obviously, this past year has been a downturn for Tesla, but Tesla is a great example of what I'm talking about. Tesla is not regarded as a automobile manufacturer. It's regarded as a tech company. So every time Elon Musk comes out and lies, initiative that they're building, its stock performance goes up. It has nothing to do with the fucking cars that they're making at all. And as someone who isn't like a finance guy, I look at this from the outside and I'm like, how does this make sense? Finance guys try to explain to me like, you don't understand. The analysis is different because it's a tech company. But I just don't, I can't understand it. Like the whole purpose of this, like the whole purpose of any kind of like valuation was supposed to be like what you are making and what, like how much revenue you're generating by selling things, okay? And how much it costs you to build those things that you're selling to begin with. And when you make an innovative product or when you find new technology, right? You are supposed to be rewarded in the market for that. That is how it's supposed to work. And yet, that's not how it works at all. Every company is a bank. It does not make sense. Larger write-offs when the stock plummets. This is unproven tech. Regulators on the board. This is not an argument. I'm not simply talking about like what the stock market has become. I'm also like, people will sometimes hear me say certain things about like cryptocurrencies or whatever, or the stock market, and they misunderstand it. Like, I'm fundamentally saying that the way that the stock market has been designed is not an indication of anything but wealth consolidation. That's it. And not even wealth consolidation for Americans either. Wealth consolidation for an international consortium of capital owners, faceless, lifeless capital owners. Numbers going up for them, regardless of whichever country they're in, as long as they've made this investment into a company, as long as they are shareholders, and nobody else. Everybody else keeps getting in the process. But because we've also kind of created an environment where you feel as though you have a stake in this because you have a 401k, for example, a lot of people are deluded into thinking that they're doing better overall when the stock market's doing better overall. But within the stock market, the gains are privatized and the losses are socialized. So whenever companies are doing well, it's the wealthy that are doing really well as a consequence of that. And when the stock market is doing poorly, well, then everybody suffers. Of course, the wealthiest suffer significantly less. I don't know. I'm not a very intelligent person, especially when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's not my forte. But to me, it just feels so made up and so fake. And yet people defend this despite the fact that they're not getting anything out of it. Generally speaking, the other big tech giants are more or less riding the same wave. It's great for shareholders. It's great for some workers. Again, with Meta, it's been hiring top AI talent with compensation packages that are in line with professional athletes. But if you ignore this very small slice of elite AI talent, the labor market within tech doesn't look that great. AI winner with its cloud business growing like crazy. And yet even they've been cutting jobs. The CEO, Satya Nadella, even posted a memo about how the pace of layoffs at his company have been weighing on him. This is a weird state of affairs. Normally when a company's profits and stocks are booming, you just sort of assume them to be in hiring mode. No, you don't. That's it. That's what I mean. Like, you don't. You just don't. That's not, when has that been the case in like the last 25 years? You know what I mean? I feel like that's just never been the case. And this is a, gaming adjacent community. So I think a lot of you actually know this better than anybody else. Company, game developer comes out with a banner, prized AAA title. It's incredibly expensive. It rakes in billions of dollars, record high profits. What comes immediately after that? Layoffs. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense. It literally doesn't make sense, but that's just how it's been for as long as I've been at least an adult and paying attention to this stuff. It's crazy. Yeah, Microsoft has reached $4 trillion in valuation after solid results. The only other company that has like a big T valuation is also, as Trump calls it, NVIDIA, right? What's the reason for both of these companies' valuation exploding? AI. What does AI do? They are experiencing tremendous stock performance for focusing their efforts on something that is a labor displacement mechanism. It is shredding labor. It's supposed to work to shred labor. Now, I'm not against AI. I'm just saying, without regulation, without some kind of insurance that when the company tries to become more efficient by utilizing AI, they, instead of firing employees, they have to give commitments, assurances to its labor force that they actually just lower the time that employees work and also boost their pay directly adjusted to the output that they have. With AI, if you are capable of doing 24 hours of work in a matter of 12 hours, then you should be paid for 24 hours of work in the 12 hours that you work, or you should at least work 6 hours to do the 12 hours of work now. That's how it's supposed to work. This is, of course, entirely antagonistic to capitalism. You say dream on, but I'm explaining to you something that makes sense, right? Like, I mean, you're not a boss. You're not Mr. Bill Gates, right? You're a guy that is watching me on Twitch. From your position, you should be advocating for this. This is what you should be advocating for. Less work, more pay. After all, your output is higher now. You are making more money for the company. You are more valuable as an employee. Your productive output has grown dramatically due to technological innovation. But companies look at that and go, hell yeah, now we can make one guy do the work of 10. The 9 other guys, we're firing them. And then the stock market goes, this is amazing. Thank you for firing the 9 other employees and making the one guy do the work of 10 now. We are going to reward you. This is efficiency. A higher profit margin. What a lot of people don't understand is, like, you can't all be little capital owners, okay? That's not how this works. Like, everyone has this Sigma grind set mentality where they're like, dude, just you wait, man. I'm gonna put that little bit of money I have aside and become a little boss of my own. I'm gonna become a capital owner myself. And it's like, that's not how this works. It's batshit insane to me, says Ryan McCaffrey, senior executive editor, IGN, that Turn 10, a studio that has literally never shipped anything less than a great game, Metacritic receipts attached, is being reduced to perhaps a support studio with these cuts. What an absolutely brutal business gaming is. Jason Schreier reports, many of Xbox subsidiaries are getting hit by the layoffs this morning, including Call of Duty studios such as Raven, big cuts at Forza Motorsport developer Turn 10, nearly 50% of staff per source. Anyway, but in this current system, investing early seems to be the only way anyone even has a chance to make it out of the rat race or be super talented. Okay, good luck. That's it. That bug has already hit you. You know what I mean? You've been duped. You've been duped. You've been duped. What capital do you have? What capital do you have? You can't make these major market moves that wealthy people can, okay? You got meager wages and maybe a little bit of disposable income, and you think that that is going to allow you to be able to get into the capital ownership class. This is precisely what I was talking about with like 401ks. People assuming that they actually can kind of game the system to their benefit when the system is designed to keep you servile. And the little meager crumbs that they offer you in the form of a 401k or the little money that you have in your pocket at the end of the month that you can like put back into the market is not making you a capital owner. It's making you fantasize that you can be a capital owner. A lot of people actually get mad at me when I say this because they're like, no, I want I want to dream. I want to dream of upward social mobility. And that's why people get very upset when I say this. I understand, but I don't think you should be discouraging people from investing. Yes, I understand the issue is at the core. I'm not. I'm just giving people a healthy dose of reality. And it's very frustrating for a lot of people because they look at that and they go, dude, this guy is not a Sigma grind set guy at all. He's actually telling me things are, and nothing can be salvaged. Okay, yeah, buy my course on my Discord server to make your money make money. Okay, that's it. People would love it if I were to turn around and be like, guys, I'm gonna give you the secrets of success. Okay, I'm gonna give you the secrets of success. Buy my course. Buy my course. Buy my course. Buy my course. We're all gonna hustle. As the resident brokey, I made $120 in brokey investments this year, but the day trader Nepo baby made $120,000. Yeah, it's just dumb. So if you think about the current state of the U.S. economy, there's something vaguely futuristic about it. A very tiny handful of people getting generationally wealthy and powerful. A broad swath of people seeing their personal balance sheets improve because the stock market has been so hot. You could argue that the stock market has become something of a privatized UBI for people fortunate enough to have bought in. And then the only areas of actual widespread job growth being in areas that are tied to aging and health, much of which is sustained by widening deficit spending. What we're not seeing is any kind of general expansion and activity across the economy. A bad jobs report here or there is not the end of the world. They happen from time to time and people freak out and then they forget about it. However, the specific contours of this moment feel like a glimmer of a stranger, less comfortable future. It's interesting to observe the market today. 2-year yields are down sharply about 21 basis points, as you would expect, because the weakness in the data make the case for sooner cuts and more of them. Odds of a September rate cut are now at 88%. Just yesterday, they were less than 40%. And yet the action at the long end of the yield curve is less dramatic, with the yield on the 10-year down closer to 15 basis points. The market is telling us that over the long term, conditions will still warrant elevated interest rates, even if we're in a moment of stall. In fact, this is generally a problem for both the Fed and the White House. Today's data certainly makes the case for cuts look stronger. In fact, at 8 a.m. this morning, Fed Governor Waller put out a statement explaining why he voted for a cut this week, and the argument holds up well. But if the goal is to revive the housing market or to reduce interest payments on the debt, which seems to be what Trump is interested in, it's not clear that we're going to ease on cuts. This is literally capitalism killing itself, okay? We are experiencing the final stage of Reagan-era neoliberalism in the United States of America. Uncontested capitalism in the aftermath of the dissolution of the USSR with no ideological market competitor basically eating itself alive because every company wants to monopolize. Every company has a tendency for corporate consolidation because that's the only way you can engage in price fixing, you can engage in price leadership, and keep up shittier and shittier, increasingly shittier and shittier products, increasingly shittier and shittier services, while simultaneously boosting the prices. Okay, it's like Amazon. You capture the market, and then after that, you slowly but surely raise the prices. And if that's the case, and there's no regulation whatsoever against endless amounts of profit seeking from corporations, and corporations basically use the government like a fleshlight, okay? What is the other outcome here? Of course it's supposed to be like this. Of course this is inevitably going to happen, that capitalism is slated to crumble within its own contradictions. Not to talk about the big guy, okay? But this is it. Because endless greed means there's endless opportunity to seek out profits in areas that the welfare state is supposed to take care of, right? So you privatize those areas as well with the hopes that you can make sure that you can keep returning more profits to the private sector. And then they rinse and repeat the same cycle of corporate consolidation, increasingly shittier products, increasingly shittier services, because it's not profitable. Everything gets worse overall for the average person, and people at the tippy top of society, the top 1% that increase their ownership over many different sectors, keep making fake money like the numbers that keep growing in the stock market. Meanwhile, on the other side of that, you have millions of people, tens of millions of people who are now jobless, who have to go into the gig economy to hopefully be able to feed their children. That's where we're at. Of course, people are going to be increasingly resentful. And now, when that resentment reaches a boiling point, you have fascism. Fascism restores order. Fascism creates a different villain, not the villain that actually has a way where you experience these horrible realities, where your dream dies of upward social mobility. Fascists tell you there's a secretive outgroup out there. For Nazi Germany, it was the Jews, it was the socialists, the trade unionists. For the United States of America, it's the undocumented migrants, the trans people. For Nazis, it was trans people too. It's always how it's worked, and that's the direction that we're going towards right now. Yeah, fascism is capitalism in decay. And capitalism is slated to decay if we just only try to max out corporate profits. Anyway, maybe things will turn around for the better. Who knows? But as long as liberals hyper-focus on their true enemy, which they think is people like myself, saying it's your bosses and it's the corporate profit seekers that are actually at fault for the way that this society is designed, I don't think there will be a lot of momentum in this direction. Because there are people all the way from the lumpen proles, the counter-revolutionary people who think, the temporarily embarrassed millionaires who are actually not millionaires at all the way to the modest millionaires and billionaires at the tippy top that either, one, demonstrate class solidarity because it benefits them, or think that if they actually suck up to the billionaires, one day they too will become a billionaire themselves. They defend a system that doesn't help them at all and actively fight back against anyone who tells them there is a different future out there. There is an alternative method out there. There is an evolution from this previous evolution, because obviously capitalism was good in its inception. It was a better version of the previous methods of commodity production. But it's time for an alternative vision.
Points right now, that's a big number. This morning's lackluster jobs report and President Trump's new tariff policy clearly having a major impact. The Labor Department says just 73,000 jobs were added to the U.S. economy in July, far fewer than expected, and revised figures show June with the weakest job growth in more than 4 years. President Trump is also cementing his break with America's longstanding free trade policy as he announces sweeping new tariffs for the entire world. More than 60 countries now face higher rates. The new tariffs for any country with a trade deficit is now at least 15%. And more than 24 nations are being hit with an even higher percentage. These new rates will go into effect on Thursday. CNN is covering all the angles with Kevin Liptak over at the White House. Matt Egan in New York. Matt, let me start with you on the jobs report. Update our viewers.
Yeah, Wolf, this was an ugly report about the most important part of the U.S. economy, the job market. We learned this morning that the U.S. economy added just 73,000 jobs in July. That was weaker than expected. The unemployment rate went from 4.1 to 4.2%.
My impact.
And as expected, still low, but moving in the wrong direction. But the big thing here that has economists and investors on Wall Street alarmed is the fact that the U.S. economy added almost no jobs at all in May and June. There were these massive revisions downward to those 2 months, showing that the economy added about 250,000 fewer jobs than previously known. June at just 14,000. Some context, that's the lowest since December of 2020. When you dig into some of the
Hasan, listen to me. Don't even give Republicans the fake W that the market is good, because it is not. These bullshit tariff dips left and right are dog shit for the market, and Kamala would have given us a higher stock market. Bro, I don't think you understand. I am fundamentally at odds with you if you think that I give a shit about the stock market performance. Okay? I just spent the last hour explaining to you in great detail that, like, the stock market performance does not actually mean your situation is better overall, or the average person's situation is better overall. And you just came in and you were like, well, my stock portfolio would look better if Kamala Harris was the president. That attitude is at the heart of why we are not getting the changes that are necessary and bouldering towards fascism. That's precisely my point. My point is, unless we move away from this kind of attitude, and re-envision what a healthy economy looks like by putting labor first, by putting average Americans first and their existence first, we are cooked.
Sectors, almost all of the job gains in the month of July came from one sector, and that is healthcare. Other sectors, including manufacturing and business services professionals, they lost jobs. Leisure and hospitality, job growth in that key sector, that's bars, restaurants, hotels, it slowed to almost a complete standstill. And so why is this happening? Well, two big things. One is the immigration crackdown. That is making it hard for businesses that want to hire to find the workers that they need. The other big factor, of course, is this historic trade war. All of this chaos with tariffs that are seemingly changing by the hour, it's paralyzed a lot of businesses. CEOs, they may want to hire, but they feel like they can't because they don't understand the rules of the road. The bottom line here, Wolf, the job market has been so resilient for years, but right now it is coming under significant pressure.
A lot of pressure indeed. I want to get to the new trade policy that's unfolding, Matt, right now. Some countries are celebrating their new tariff rates while others are slamming the U.S. Give us some perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at historically high tariffs from the Trump administration. The big key here is that countries that have a surplus with the United States, right? Countries that the United States has a trade surplus with, their minimum tariff is going to be 10%. A deficit with, it's going to be 15%. That's the new minimum. But we also know that starting on August 7th, number of countries are going to have even higher tariffs than that, including Taiwan at 20%, India at 25%, South Africa 30%. Canada on the non-USMCA compliant goods, 35%. The highest in the world is Syria. The other big development is the White House has announced a 40% tariff on transshipments. These are goods that go from high tariff countries to low tariff countries before they come to the United States. This is a 40% tax on top of existing penalties. Bottom line here, Wolf, is we are talking about historically high tariffs that we have not seen in the United States in almost a century.
Interesting. Kevin Liptak is joining us from the White House. Kevin,
they made the ships woke. They're transing the ships. I heard that.
The president has been negotiating with two of America's biggest and most important trading partners. We're talking about Canada and Mexico, our neighbors. Where do things stand on that front?
Yeah, and I think the relative fate of Canada and Mexico gives you a good illustration of how the president has approached all of this, because they have fared dramatically differently in this trade war. When it comes to Mexico, President Trump spoke to that country's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, yesterday and announced this 90-day reprieve from the heaviest tariffs. So they'll remain at 25%. They were expected to hit 30%, but the president held off as he tries to work on this new trade deal with that country's president. He says that their relationship is improving. He says that the southern border makes a uniquely complicated trade deal to try and strike. Canada has fared very differently. The president jacking up tariffs on Canada from 25% to 35% for what he says was lack of cooperation in trying to combat the fentanyl crisis. The president has had obviously a very testy relationship with that country and with its new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, who said in a statement that Canadians will be our own best customer. He says that they'll work to diversify their trading relationships throughout the world. And so in these two examples, I think you have a good illustration of how the president is approaching all of this. One, these interpersonal relationships continue to be very important for the president. But when it comes to Canada and a number of other countries, you see the president using tariffs and using trade to try and exert his other geopolitical priorities. I think the other big question is whether all of this is set in stone. The president has obviously in the past shown a degree of flexibility on these rates. I think it is clear, though, that we're now entering a very different trade era.
Economist and the president of the Budget Lab at Yale University, Natasha Sarin, is joining us right now. She was also a counselor to President Biden's Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen. Natasha, thanks so much for joining us. I'm anxious to get your thoughts on the July jobs numbers that were just released this morning. Economists expected a much higher number. What's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is that what we are seeing in the economy is that the tariffs are really starting to bite. because what happened this month is the labor market has proven to be weaker than we anticipated, both for this month here in July, but also these really substantial downward revisions for May and June, which indicate to us exactly what the models that my colleagues and I at the Budget Lab have been producing, which is when you have tariffs at these incredibly high levels, the effective tariff rate in the economy now, post all these new deals that we saw over the course of the last few days, is at about 18%. That's about 7 times what it was when President Trump took office. And that is going to lead to a smaller economy. It is going to lead to 500,000 fewer jobs in the economy. And frankly, that's what we're starting to see.
And as you mentioned, Natasha, numbers for May and June, jobs numbers, were revised down dramatically by more than 250,000 jobs. May saw just 19,000 new jobs added. June had only 14,000. These are huge decreases from where they were previously reported. What does this tell you about the numbers?
Well, what's really interesting.
I genuinely, I'm not an audio pervert. I don't care that these glitches happen, but I truly don't understand how CNN has not fixed this problem. Like every single one of their videos has this issue. I don't get it. Like, do they not have a single person? Do they not have a single person working over there that just like looks at the YouTube videos after the fact? Am I the only guy who is watching CNN YouTube videos? I don't get it. It's crazy. Reminds me of someone. No, my audio is spectacular as opposed to CNN. Jesus Christ. And also, once again, this is a one-stop shop, okay? This is a one-person operation. And we work through a lot of those problems in real time while we're doing live production. This is a VOD that this is a VOD issue with CNN all the time. And it's also like it's a major media conglomerate. Okay.
Interesting, Wolf, is that I think it kind of comports with what you might expect in a world in which there's just so much uncertainty around where these trade deals and where policy is ultimately going to land. Because if you're a business in this country and you're trying to think about making decisions about new workers to bring on or where it makes sense to invest or where it makes sense to build, you're frankly in wait and see mode because you don't at all know the environment in which you're going to be operating in. You don't know how much it's going to cost to import parts to build those cars. You don't know the environment in which you're going to be able to bring in different types of products that you need to be able to sell if you're a retailer. And so I think what the economy is reflecting is that that type of uncertainty really has quite seismic consequences. And we're starting to see it show up in the labor market. Also this week, though, you're starting to see it show up in inflation. You're seeing durable goods inflation. That's particularly the sectors where the tariffs are having the most bite. It's things like furniture, consumer electronics. Inflation in the last 6 months has been grown at the highest rate than it's grown at any time in the last 4 decades absent the pandemic. So this is an economy that sort of on both dimensions with respect to inflation and with respect to the labor market is showing signs of real challenge.
The president has been claiming almost every single day that the U.S. is the, quote, hottest country in the world when it comes to the economy. Listen to what he's been saying. I want to just play this clip.
We have the hottest country in the world now. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Saying shit. Guys, again, not a big economy guy, okay? Not the biggest economy guy. But it kind of feels like he's just saying shit, okay? I don't know, man. It just feels like he's just making shit up. At a certain point, we got to go, hey, boss, your audio is crackling. My Sennheiser. Okay, stop. Why are you adding your own fucking username, dummy? I got it. It's funny. You're an audio pervert. Okay.
We have the highest stock market we've ever had. We have the best numbers we've ever had.
So, Natasha, what are you?
Yeah. In my opinion, today's job numbers were rigged in order to make the Republicans and me look bad. Just like when they had 3 great days around the 2024 presidential election and then those numbers were taken away. Okay, but you're literally describing what the same person did for Biden, doing it for you. I don't get it. Like, he is saying that the very same person that he's now firing did this for Biden and now is doing it for him. And now he's saying it was bad when she did it it was good. Like, she was working in favor of the Biden administration when she did this exact same thing for the Biden administration. But now when she's doing the exact same thing for him, it's bad. Right after the election, jobs were massively revised downward, making a correction of over 818,000 jobs, a total scam. Jerome Too Late Powell is no better, but the good news is our country is doing great. I don't think the country is doing great. Because if it was, you wouldn't be doing this. Whatever this is, okay? He's an idiot. Once you start viewing everything he says through this lens, it will make sense to you, lol. No, I know he's an idiot. I know that. I understand. I promise you, I understand that. It's just like, how stupid could he get is still something that has the capacity to shock me. A Trump stan, a Trump follower, someone who has followed Donald Trump for fairly closely for quite some time.
What's your reaction to that? What are the numbers?
The thing is, when President Trump took office, we actually had a very, very strong economy. The labor market was very strong, and you had inflation. It hadn't gotten all the way back to the Federal Reserve's 2% inflation target, but it was well on its way. The sort of challenge that the economy is facing right now isn't that we've had a financial crisis or that there's been some sort of seismic event like COVID. What's happening right now is we have this man-made crisis that's come as a result of these trade wars, where it's impossible for businesses to make any real decisions.
Like, one of the funniest parts about this like horrible situation overall is that things are slated to head in this direction regardless, unless the Democrats or the Republicans make the necessary changes that actually improve people's living conditions, living standards, and dramatically restructure the way that our economy is organized. They're never going to do that. Their job is to literally not do that. Okay. But Trump, on top of that, is accelerating the demise with the actions that he takes that make no sense whatsoever. It does genuinely feel like this is a necrophilic state that we're in, where it's dying, and the remaining things that we have, the remaining industries that we have, and the remaining like state. No, I'm saying necrophilic on purpose. I'm saying that they're fucking the corpse of America. Okay, they are having sexual intercourse with what remains of the carcass of the American state, the select few people. It is very much the demise of the USSR. Okay, it's giving. Wait, why'd you say gaming? Why are people saying copium gaming? Oh, is it because did the Steam thing download completely? Oh, that's why. You heard the Steam notification. Yeah. I know. Okay, calm down, everybody. Yes, gaming will happen today. It will. I got a hashtag ad from China. Wild, but also appropriate analogy. That's what it is.
About how to think about investment, and also
Dude, this guy keeps spamming it. Would you do an interview with Tucker Carlson if his producers reached out? Yes, I would. Okay, I would. He has a ginormous platform. It would not be a positive one, but I would. I've said it before. I will go on any platform.
Because essentially tariffs are a tax on literally everything the American consumer is buying. When you tax those goods, you make them more expensive, and that impacts the pocketbooks of the American people to buy those goods, but also changes their choices about other goods that they're going to be able to buy if the prices of the things they need for things.
Breaking news this morning, economic news, brand new jobs numbers just out. You can see them behind me. In July, just 73,000 new jobs, below expectations, the unemployment rate at 4.2%. But the big news, really big news, major revisions for May and June, major downward revisions. Those months much, much worse than thought, really making them two of the...
It's crazy because like they cooked Brandon when this happened. Trump literally brought it up. Trump brought this up with the Brandon regime too. Max Blumenthal, don't agree with all his takes. Obviously, neither do I. Calls it the necro-economy, a corpse that produces no real goods in manufacturing. Only remaining goal is profiting off death and weapons. The deadly health insurance industry scam, the inefficient and deadly weapons and war industry are the only real things left, and the fake bullshit like AI and crypto. Like, there's nothing there. Okay, with AI and cryptocurrency, there's nothing. There's no output. it's just not real. It's not a real thing. It's not like a tangible product. I guess you can say with AI, like it's supposed to be more efficient manufacturing, more efficient everything, but that efficiency comes at a cost, and that cost is the evisceration of labor. So what's supposed to happen? We just have like a 99% of the population be like servile little serfs, and the top 1% is just like unimaginably wealthy, and everyone else is just a slave. Like, and it's all held together. There will be tremendous resentment towards that sort of thing, but all of that is held together by like a fascist military state with, I guess, the only remaining jobs being relatively well-funded soldiers that are there to make sure that any kind of discontent is stamped out violently. It's great. Fantastic.
The weakest month since the pandemic. Let's get right to CNN's Zane Asher for the latest on this. What are you seeing, Zane?
John, I don't know what to say. I mean, this number is bad. You mentioned the downward revisions, but if you look at this number, 73,000 jobs added compared to 115,000 that was expected. And you have to remember that...
Actually, I take it back. It will be cyberpunk. It won't even be like, there will be no function of the state, not even for military purpose. It will just be like private military brigades, PMCs that different corporations hire and are just like at a constant state of warfare with one another, and also consistently killing the working poor, you know? And we're not even getting any sort of cyber, any sort of like cybernetics or whatever. We're not even getting any of the cool stuff. No lifelike AI bot, artificial girlfriend. The best you'll get is like that horrible soulless grok.
In order for us not to be in the danger zone in this economy, the economy should be chugging along at least 100,000 jobs every month. The fact that this is below that is significant. You have to go back to October last year to find a worse number. As you mentioned, the downward revisions are really problematic. We're talking about June being 14,000 instead of 147,000.
That's a huge discrepancy.
That is huge. And then you think about May coming in at 19,000. And a lot of the economists that I've been speaking to have been warning me that, look, when you start laying off the people whose very job it is to actually collect the data, that is likely at some point going to show up in the numbers. And the discrepancies is really what concerns me. I do want to talk about some of the specific sectors. I'll start with some of the positive numbers that we got. As we've spoken about time and time again, a lot of the jobs growth has been driven by healthcare, right? This is a care economy. You have an aging population. That seems to be doing relatively fine. Part of the problem, and what I find really problematic, and I'm waiting for Trump to post on Truth Social about these numbers, and wondering what he's going to say about Jerome Powell and the Fed needing to cut rates. But when you think about manufacturing is the one sector that the Trump administration has said that they want to help. That this whole game is about helping that sector. That sector is losing jobs by the minute. When you think about the fact that factories are not able to import raw materials, that you have factories in this country that are sitting idle, that factories are laying people off, and you have at least 11,000 jobs being lost in manufacturing, that's a problem. Construction is another sector. That's sort of, 2,000 jobs added. I mean, that's sort of relatively lukewarm here. You're not seeing much movement in construction. That's a sector that is definitely dependent on immigration. And when you have the fact that a lot of people in this country who are immigrants or from elsewhere are scared to show up to building sites, that's also a problem as well. We're seeing wages in construction actually soar and activity go down as well. Retail as a sector was okay, added about 15,000 jobs, sort of chugging along. Retail has obviously been problematic because of a little known company known as Amazon, but also retail is heavily dependent on tariffs as well. I'm really curious about what Jerome Powell is going to say, not just because of the headline number, because it's not really just about the headline number, as you know, John. It is really about, A, what is beneath the hood, but also these downward revisions, which tell you that when I came on here last month telling you, the economy is resilient, that wasn't actually the case because of these downward revisions.
If we can get that other board up, because that's the one that actually tells the story. When you see job growth from month to month of 14,000, 19,000, and then in the 70s, hopefully that can come back up, because that's the news here. You've got three anemic months of jobs growth.
Right.
Put that side by side with this new announcement that came overnight of these tariffs, which may or may not go into effect. See, right here, this is the news.
Right, this is
you
the
look
news.
at this. These are, and I'll just walk around. These are two of the weakest months we've seen since 2020.
Right.
14,000,
14,000,
19,000. Those are very, very weak numbers. And it's also just statistically, and for those who keep track of things, way off from what they said before. But if you looked at a 3-month stretch like this, you say, wait a second, we've got an economy that's got some real challenges.
That's got a lot of work to do. And when you think about the fact that Liberation Day, yes, April 2nd rather, Liberation Day, we were sort of wondering when we were going to see the...
It's so great. It's so great to call it Liberation Day. Last bar seems fake. I mean, who knows? Who knows what it will look like when those job numbers get liberated too next month? When we go back and we're like, actually, we had 12 new jobs. Not 12,000, just 12. We were wrong. Our estimation was wrong. Oops.
Effects of these tariffs.
Except that won't happen because Trump will probably put like some freak at the Bureau of Labor Statistics who, okay, if next month all of a sudden you see unprecedented job growth, tremendous job growth, just understand that the new guy is in charge, okay? Next month, we have we found out there are 1 million new jobs. It's crazy. So many jobs, more jobs than there are people. It's no one's ever seen anything like it. It's so much job. It's jobs. We're doing so many jobs. Jobs like you've never seen before. The hottest economy from the standpoint of heat.
On the labor market, and you and I were talking about the fact that, wow, we haven't actually seen it yet. Well, we did see it. It just wasn't reflected in the numbers. 19,000, as you point out, 14,000 jobs added in June. Clearly, it was having an impact. People were not hiring. You had so much uncertainty in this economy where employers just didn't feel comfortable actually hiring. And I'm wondering what Jerome Powell is actually going to do. He talked about just this idea of being data dependent. And now we're seeing the data really showing some kind of indication that these tariffs are absolutely having an effect now. And so a lot of people are saying that the September rate cut was already likely. It is now even more likely, John.
Zane Asher, thank you very much.
Of course.
Kate?
Thank you so much. Joining us right now for more on this from the White House is Stephen Myron, the chair of the President's Council of Economic Advisors. Stephen, thank you so much for being here. What's your reaction to this?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Look, this jobs report isn't ideal. There's no way around that. But nevertheless, I think that the downward revisions reflect a couple of anomalous factors. First of all, about 60% of the downward revision is due to quirks of the seasonal adjustment process. Then on top of that, there's the fact that the president created in a household survey since the president took office, he created about 2.5 million jobs for Americans, whereas we've eliminated about 1 million jobs for foreign-born workers. That's a result of our strong immigration policy of our.
Oh, that's what they're doing. Oh my God. This is the meta. Okay. The meta is, no, you don't understand. We're getting jobs for the Americans. Okay. We're kicking, the layoffs are just the Mexicans. Okay. You don't understand. Oh, hell yeah. Bro, this is great. Remember when they tried to pull this spin? Not that they needed to do this spin at all, because we're not going to see the Medicaid cuts until after the midterms. But they were like, no, you don't understand. We said we weren't going to cut Medicaid, and now we're cutting Medicaid by almost a trillion, okay? But that actually is for the Mexicans. We're cutting off Medicaid for the Mexicans. Your Medicaid is fine. They just literally slam that talking point on everything. No matter what, whichever way this goes, they're like, no, you don't understand. The job layoffs are Mexican layoffs, Mexican style layoffs. Americans are getting good jobs. I don't know how long you can lie like this, for the record. I don't know, because at a certain point, people are going to be like, this is not happening. I thought it was just the Mexicans, but I don't think it's just the Mexicans. I think I lost my job, So, yeah, J.D. Vance. I was told 6 months ago that America's losing jobs and the foreign-born gaining jobs was an irreversible demographic fact. Turns out you just needed a new president and a new immigration policy. Holy shit. I thought this was a typo. In the last 4 months, native-born Americans have gained 1.8 million jobs. Meanwhile, 1.5 million foreign-born workers, legal and illegal, lost a job. A sharp reversal of the last few years. Hell yeah. I specifically note legal plus illegal immigrants because the government does not separate the two groups in their data on foreign-born workers. However, based on numbers, a large percentage are certainly illegal immigrants. Yeah, no, this is certainly this is happening. This is for sure. Also, once again, having to remind myself that I'm unemployed that work any sort of agricultural job. Yeah, no, you don't understand. They're lining up, dude. They're lining up, dude. You don't understand. They are working the crops left and right. Evet, gitti. He's gonna send me a quote for something that is broken, like the fuse box or something. Okay. 0 white people lost their jobs. I swear to God, bro. Come on, bro. No, you don't understand, bro. You don't understand, King. You don't get it. Okay? White people are getting the jobs. They're getting good paying jobs right now. I promise. Not your cousin. Not you. You're white. You just didn't get it, but there's, I'm sure, white people out there that are getting the good jobs, I promise.
Strong border policy, keeping America safe, and eventually the outflow of foreign workers in this data.
Yeah, 85,000 Mexicans fired from the government, from the public sector. The public sector was just using the 85,000 Guatemalans that they fired, you know, and pushed for an early retirement. That's what happened. This makes sense. I believe this.
We're bound to show up in the establishment survey, as they finally did this morning, too. Finally, we've been hearing a lot about uncertainty over the last few months, but that's all resolved now. We're creating trade deals left and right that have unlocked enormous new potential for the American economy. The tariff uncertainty is fading away. Tariff rates are settling in. The one big beautiful bill is now law. There's no more uncertainty over the tax bill either, over potentially the biggest tax hike in American history. And on top of that, there are such strong, powerful incentives in the one big beautiful bill for investment. Things like full expensing on investment in equipment and R&D, on new factory structures. These are huge. So it's all going to get much, much better from here.
But on those major downward revisions for June and May, I mean, June was initially said to be 147,000 jobs added, now revised to be just 14,000 jobs added. That amounts to the weakest month of job growth since December of 2020. And you attribute that to what, if it is not in part because of the uncertainty created in part by the president's trade war?
Oh, I attribute it to the combination of the three things that I described before. About 40% of that is due to seasonal adjustment quirks around teachers. Some of it is due to declining foreign-born employment, even as we created more American-born employment, and that is going to net out in a way that you see ultimately reflected in the data like that. And then finally, there's the uncertainty, right? Don't forget, we were in the midst of restructuring the global trading system in a way that hasn't been done in decades. The president is standing up for American workers and American firms for the first time in decades, and of course that was going to induce some uncertainty. It induced some volatility in financial markets, and we can see it induces some volatility in economic data too. But that uncertainty is resolved. The tariff rates are set. The one big beautiful bill is law. It's going to get better from here.
Congressman Stephen Lynch, a Democrat from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. Major downward revisions for May and June, making them the worst months since the pandemic. A miss on the jobs report just out. I want you to listen how the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors at the White House, Steve Myron, just described it to our Kate Baldwin.
You know, this jobs report isn't ideal. There's no way around that. But nevertheless, I think that the downward revisions reflect a couple of anomalous factors.
Not ideal. How would you describe it?
Well, we're seeing in our area, we've got 30% unemployment among the ironworkers union. A lot of those building trades are being affected by the 50% tariffs against Canadian steel, where we get most of our fabricated steel from, aluminum as well. So in the building trades, we're seeing, they're probably the tip of the iceberg, but they're the first, I think, to be impacted. And I think that the impact will continue to grow from there. It's not an anomaly. This is the beginning of a bad sequence.
Bro, everybody said this was going to happen. Who is this supposed to be a surprise to? Like, literally everyone said that this was the inevitable outcome of the inconsistent messaging coming from the administration about, like, molesting the money over and over again. Not that it matters, because obviously the wealthiest people don't actually suffer here, because they can just like move their assets, or because their wealth is directly tied to stock performance. Ironically enough, those are the motherfuckers that don't have a real job. The ones that do not rely on wage labor. Yeah, the financial economy is immersed in the kind of wild gambling we saw leading up to the 2008 financial crisis. Honestly, even the wild gambling leading up to the 2008 financial crisis took years to implement through steady deregulation. This is just like, this is a level above that. I think this is just straightforwardly using the entire American economy and the stock market as a get rich quick scheme for the richest people, just turning it on and off so that his homies can like buy and sell quickly. I don't get it. Bro, don't take this as a complaint. I'm not as mass sensitive audio perv, but did you change your mic volume? You're hella quiet, but YouTube is loud as fuck. Dealing with it, whatever, to be honest, but just wondering. No. Wait, let me see. Maybe. Hold on. I think that's what's going on. I cranked it because I couldn't hear it. Hold on. Robert Reich says, we're seeing it all over again. This time with crypto, meme stocks, junk bonds, and investors pumping up shares of AI stocks without knowing what it is. Be warned.
For employment in the country.
Actually, 11,000 manufacturing jobs lost last month in those reports. You are deeply connected to the unions up in Massachusetts, South Boston, and elsewhere. What has the impact been of the president's tariffs to this point on manufacturing, and what do you think it will be now that he is announcing a new round of tariffs that he says will go into effect in a week?
So I've got about 6 major projects that have already gone through the environmental process, the community process, the zoning process. But those develop, and these are large-scale projects. These are large, hundreds of thousands of square feet, lots of retail, residential units, some manufacturing. All those projects are stopped because of the uncertainty. How can you put a bid in, or how can a developer get financing when the cost of your products, whether it's steel or concrete or aggregate or lumber, which is also historically high right now, around 20% lumber from Canada, how can you give a bid to an owner when you don't know what your costs are going to be? Your margins can disappear like that. And so we're seeing the banks also very reluctant to offer financing on favorable terms because of the uncertainty.